Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. Sorry for the delay. I had a couple of technical issues I had to deal with, and but I'm here and everything's good. And we are going to deal with the tropics front and center. A lot of interesting things going on, not just from the standpoint of Hurricane Hector, Category 4 hurricane that is going to pass south of Hawaii. That is pretty much a done deal. From the standpoint of what we're seeing. But we also have Hurricane John and Tropical Storm Christy in the Pacific, and Hurricane John, which absorbed Tropical Storm Ileana. Ileana basically became a feeder band of John, and Christy is out between John and Hector. We have Christy. And we have a subtropical storm in the Atlantic, believe it or not. We have been watching activity in the Atlantic being almost non-existent, and there was that upper low in the central Atlantic that started to show some signs of organization, and as a result, we wind up with a subtropical storm, but that's not going to impact any land area. So here's Hector as it moves right along. It's still kind of nudging just north of due west there. And it's going to cross now 150 degrees west, Hawaii at 155. So we will see Hector pass to the south of the Big Island on Wednesday, and the other islands Wednesday night into early Thursday, well south of the other islands. We still have a tropical storm watch for the southern shores of Hawaii, but not for the northern shores. And of course, we have tropical storm warnings up for the coastal waters. The main impact here will be the impact to the coastal waters, where there will be rough seas and some gusty winds, particularly once you're far enough offshore. But the core of this hurricane is going to stay way to the south. And here we have, by the way, you don't see it on this shot, but Christy is the tropical storm that you see here in between Hector and Hurricane John. Hurricane John is south of the Baja Peninsula. And if you notice the bright white clouds on the northeastern fringe of that at the very beginning of the loop, that was what was left of Tropical Storm Ileana, and then it just became a feeder band to John. They were only 200 or 300 miles apart. Might have even been a little bit less than that. The center just started racing at 25 to 30 miles an hour as it wound up getting absorbed by the ever-expanding circulation of John. And on this particular satellite view, by the way, you can see the difference in size between Hurricane John and Hurricane Hector in terms of the geography. John's still in the organizing phase, and it will probably briefly achieve major hurricane status before it weakens along off the colder waters. And Hector is probably going to maintain major status for a while. It may weaken as it goes south of the Hawaiian Islands. There's actually a lot of dry air at mid-levels starting to have some impact on the storm. But it is also likely to strengthen back to a major hurricane once it gets west of 165 degrees west and then goes on its merry way toward the international dateline. And by the way, Anthony Orr pointed out that in the instance where another Hurricane John crossed the international dateline, it became Typhoon John. So I guess for continuity's sake in the Pacific, if it crosses the dateline, they keep the same name. It happens so infrequently, it's hard to remember. So Anthony, as always, the great statistician that he is, came and saved the day and saves me from time to time. Kick save and a beauty, Anthony. Thank you. All right, so one more shot I want to show you here. Also, you can look at the enhanced satellite picture, the color enhanced, and you can actually see at the very beginning the bright red clouds along the coast of Mexico. That was Ileana, and of course you see the expanding circulation of John, Christy in between John and Hector on the far left. and notice John much bigger, almost twice the size of Hector, which remains a very compact, circular, symmetric tropical system, sign of its major intensity, of course, as it moves along to the west. Now, why don't we take a look at the recon. This is the latest reconnaissance aircraft that's in there, and I just refreshed the page to update it so you can follow it along. 3 passes into the center, one that occurred at about 16.2. Now the third pass was at about 16.3 and just getting very close to 150 degrees west. The scale on the bottom, the winds, looks like there's still a few areas. I'm not the most color savvy person in the world, but I'm thinking that this is the area here. This looks like 96 to 113. There still looks like there are some bands of 113 to 137 knot winds that the plane has measured, and the pressure is 951, 950, 950. So still a major hurricane. Looks like it is going to now at some point that slight northward component of motion it is going to just disappear, and it is going back straight to the west. If it doesn't make it to 16.5 north, it would pass all over 2.5 degrees south of the Big Island. So we're talking about at least 150 nautical miles south of the southern tip of the Big Island. And given the structure of the storm, the size of the storm itself, where the gales are, the core, and everything else, there really is not going to be a whole lot in terms of land impacts from this. It's going to be marine impacts, maybe some fringe effects right along the immediate coast, and that should be it. And of course, on a westerly course as it goes further out, you are going to wind up seeing the storm pass over 200 nautical miles south of the other islands, including Honolulu. Here is Tropical Storm Debby, Subtropical Storm Debby, pardon me, on the visible satellite loop here in the central Atlantic, nearing 40 north and at about 49 and change west, moving northward at 15 miles an hour. This is going to probably disappear as a tropical system in another 24 or so hours, as it is already pretty far up to the north, and it's going to be picked up by a trough in the Atlantic, and eventually that moisture might make its way toward Western Europe, where maybe there'll be a little bit of drought relief once that happens. But I didn't really give it a close view. I happened to notice that yesterday that the remnants of this could probably pass over England and Ireland at some point, bringing some rains. But again, I didn't really give it a good look today, so I'll try and take a look when I can a bit later on. Now, back to local weather here. You can see the thunderstorms. I'm actually hearing the thunderstorms right now that are going on. There are some cells that are forming overhead. The line doesn't look all that impressive, but this is part of a frontal boundary that's moving through. The frontal boundary is still way to the west, so we're going to have another day to deal with humidity. And the temperatures really here in our area, our neck of the woods, haven't been all that high, relatively speaking. I mean, certainly made upper 80s and low 90s, but it hasn't been much higher than that. The humidity has just been so out of control with dew points in the 70s that when you look at the quote-unquote feels like temperature, in some places it's been up close to 100 today. It just makes it feel very, just miserable. Some scattered thunderstorms in Johnny Quest land, and that's in Western Virginia and in parts of West Virginia. We're seeing some downpours and thunderstorms across the Gulf states, which is typical. Some scattered cells around parts of Florida, nothing too crazy there. And over parts of the upper Midwest, in and around the Chicago area, getting into some strong cells, and also into parts of the middle Mississippi Valley, back over into the southern plains. And in the southwest, we've got a little bit of monsoonal action going on. The northwest and the west coast looking pretty dry. So as far as the longer term pattern is concerned, here comes the next. It's pretty easy, folks. Starting with today's upper air, we're starting to see the westerlies trying to drop southward. So this is our little cold front, but it really only brings a minimal amount of relief here to the humidity in the northeast. And then we cut another trough from the St. Lawrence Valley southwestward. Now, models are kind of having a bit of a time with this. A lot is, you see how the orientation of this trough on this particular new run of the model is more east-northeast, of the GFS is more east-northeast, west-southwest. This is a bit different from the earlier runs in that we have a much more wrapped up upper low, and this would certainly imply that there would be, at least for a couple of days, a developing south-southwest flow in the east, bringing more rain, downpours, and thunderstorms. Not a continuous rain, but certainly there would be belts of heavy rain. The new run kind of has a much more sheared look to this, so I'm going to wait and see if this is right. This is much different from any of the models today in that the European also has this kind of wrapped up look that eventually gets kicked out and has a stronger trough that wants to come in later next week. That might bring in a decent shot of relief if the European is correct, but that's the big question. Models seem to be kind of going in different directions here. All of a sudden the GFS wants to have this more sheared look to it. I'm not sure whether I'm ready to accept that or not. But we'll let me bring up the precip here and show you where we're going with this the next couple of days. By the way, there's Hurricane John as a major hurricane on the GFS off the Baja Peninsula. The GFS has got its pressure down in the 940s. Meanwhile, we've got a cold front coming through here later tomorrow. Chance for some strong thunderstorms in the northeast and mid-Atlantic states, and also back down in the southern plains. Looks like there could be a round of severe weather. Slight improvement for Thursday and Friday, a little bit of dry air, and then, of course, with the next trough. Now, see, if you're going to have more of a sheared look, that makes the high to the north there a bit more important. So that could be, you know, if it's a more sheared look, it may cut down on downpours. A lot depends on how it sets up. We'll see. I'm not 100% sold on all this yet, but I tend to think that there is going to be an increasing chance for downpours and storms for Saturday and in through Tuesday of next week. And notice, by the way, across the mid-Atlantic states, it seems like, you know, that frontal boundary is going to set up there again. So this is going to be definitely problematic. Here's the here's what we're looking at in terms of total precip, by the way, and this is only out through Monday. But the GFS does have some pockets of 2 to 3 inches. Most areas on the order of 1 inch to 3 inches across the northeast, down through much of the Ohio and Tennessee Valley and through the Gulf states. This, you know, kind of looks like what you would normally see when you're dealing with a pretty wet pattern. Just want to check real quick, make sure I don't have any. I'm hearing some thunder here in the studio. Just want to make sure that we don't have any severe weather warnings running around, and it does not appear as if we do, so that is a good thing. So the other thing I want to look at, I'm going to minimize here. I just wanted to bring up the weather prediction, WPC's view with the rainfall over the next 7 days, and it doesn't appear to be, you know, the brightest blue is 1.5 inches. So they're talking about 1.5 inches of liquid starting from today and going right through the next 7 days. It is not showing a whole lot, but you get into Pennsylvania, you get into western New York, and down through Virginia and West Virginia, and now you're talking an additional several inches of rain. The big amounts, the 4 or 5 inch plus rain amounts, are back through Texas. And actually, a lot of this, you know, if this is back in West Texas, this was an area that not too long ago was in drought, was in a bit of a drought situation. So heavy rain setting up for West Texas and across the southern plains and into the lower Mississippi Valley. Otherwise, and also, by the way, in the southwest with some of the monsoon stuff going on. But otherwise, it looks fairly typical. The tropics for the Atlantic, by the way, just remain dead as a doornail. I really don't see any change. You know, we've been talking about this day after day with the strong upper air winds. wind sheet, the Saharan dust. There's no real change. So other than what happened with Debby, which is the formation of the subtropical storm, which is pretty much a homegrown system, that's all we're seeing so far. Here's your risk area this evening, by the way, up in Maine into a small area of New Hampshire, but you've got a large area of marginal risk covering New England, back over New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and then down through the lower Ohio Valley and the middle Mississippi Valley into another area of slight risk back in the southern plains and central Rockies. We do have one severe thunderstorm watch box up for northeastern New Mexico. This is as of 6:26 Eastern time. So as always, when you're looking at dealing with severe weather, please remember that if you're watching this on a replay later tonight, it's dated. So you want to check your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov for the latest radars and the latest watches and warnings. And also, with respect to hurricanes and tropical systems, please consult your local National Weather Service office or the National Hurricane Center at nhc.noaa.gov and your local government officials when it comes to getting information that you can use to make decisions going forward. That will be my hurricane, let's call it my hurricane and radar disclaimers that we'll be hearing from time to time as we go through the next couple of months. So let me come to the board here. So Anthony Orr, that's Timothy Veltman. Anthony Orr saying Hurricane John in '94, which became Typhoon John, was both the longest lasting and the farthest traveling tropical cyclone ever observed, lasting 31 days. I do remember that, but it's kind of heartbreaking that was 24 years ago. Time goes by in a hurry. And Timothy Veltman, common theme among meteorologists around the Northeast tonight, definitely the humidity and the thunderstorms. Johnny Quest, good to see you on here. Priscilla Mayu, Louisiana gal, and the rains that are occurring over parts of the Gulf states. Hope that you're getting some drought relief. William Huber, it does not cool at night, but it does that actually it is a positive in the sense that if you have a pool with no heater, because I have no heater, and it helps to keep the pool temperature up. So I'm kind of happy about that. The south and southeast coast of Hawaii get deep in feet from shore, and the waves on the coast get to be huge. Yeah, it drops off very, very fast offshore. And yeah, that's thunder that's going on with thunderstorms outside my studio here in Rye Brook, New York, which is in Westchester County, just northeast of New York City. Johnny Quest just had a bad storm there, 60-mile-an-hour winds and 2 inches of rain on top of the... your amounts are really just completely off the wall, and it's amazing, the amount of rain that has fallen across much of the interior mid-Atlantic states, and that next trough is not a good thing, okay? We don't want that to happen. It doesn't look good for the Perseid meteor shower from the 11th to 13th. I would say no, although, sometimes even with the patterns that we've had, it has partially cleared out at night. It doesn't necessarily stay overcast. It depends on where you are. So keep your fingers crossed. It is a problem to have the pattern going into a trough in the east right at the time of the Perseid meteor shower. But what can you do? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have clouds during the nighttime hours. I know on Long Island, for example, a lot of the nights. And along a lot of coastal areas, the nights have been fairly clear, with the cloud cover being more a factor inland. So location, definitely important. Let's see, just checking out, make sure I got everybody. I see T-Bear is here. All is well. Wild storms that you're going through. Yeah, radar is very, very busy. In fact, I'm going to bring up, since you guys are hearing the thunder that's going on, I can bring up the local radar. I'm going to refresh this. And here we go. So there's the cell. Actually, it's now moving out into Long Island Sound. The cell that's just northeast of New York City, that's the one that was hammering me. And we've got some strong thunderstorms now moving out of northwest New Jersey and heading into northeastern New Jersey. Also some big storms in parts of eastern Pennsylvania and south central Pennsylvania. You can see them here moving southwestward in and around Harrisburg. Looks like they're now east of Harrisburg and heading toward Lancaster. Not much going on in and around the Philadelphia area. You've got some action just east of Baltimore. And also up the Hudson Valley, we've got some strong thunderstorms going on as well. I can actually see if I can bring up the other radar shot. Let me see if I have it here. We'll do it this way. I'll bring that. And all right, just be patient with me, folks. We can take a look at... I'm going to go to the Philadelphia radar here in just a second. Bring that to the top, and I can move this around. So here's this is actually the radar. I always call it the Philadelphia radar. It's actually out of Fort Dix in central New Jersey, but you can see the cells that are in southeastern, eastern PA, and the cells that are in and around my area. I'll jump up. Let's go up toward the New York radar, and you can get a better view here. Looks like a bowing line of storms up in northern Massachusetts there, north of Springfield and northwest of Worcester. That is moving eastward. Let me loop this. We can loop these things. I don't see any, there's no warnings up. There are 2 severe thunderstorm warnings up I believe those are severe thunderstorm. I could be wrong. Let me double check before I speak and give out the wrong information. Let me just make sure what we got there. Those might be there. They're flash flood warnings. I stand corrected. Those are flash flood warnings that are up. Looks like for, I believe that's Greene County, north of Dutchess County, or Columbia County. Maybe it's Columbia County. Let me... okay, so we've got a flash flood warning for central Berkshire County. Oh, it's Columbia County, so it's flash flood warning for northeastern Columbia County in New York State. Sorry, folks. Long day trying to keep up with all this stuff. Let me jump down. Let's go southwest again. And let's cut down toward Virginia. And you can see how busy, again, now it's 6:33 Eastern Time. Remember, folks, if you're watching this on a replay, it's dated, weather.gov. Check your local office. But we've got some strong storms down even into Maryland and eastern Virginia. And for Johnny Quest, we'll go back west on one shot here. And trying to see. So now we're actually on the panhandle of Virginia, West Virginia. You can see some strong cells in the southwestern part of the state of Virginia, moving eastward and even into parts of North Carolina. So, you know, very, very busy, obviously, on the radar tonight. And by the way, we do have excessive heat again. Don't want to leave the folks out west out of all of this, but we do have excessive heat issues and heat advisories for Southern California, parts of the Southwest, and also the Northwest U.S., and a smattering of heat advisories from New England down to the parts of New Jersey into the mid-Atlantic states, and also for a small area across the deep south. So this is the peak summer week in terms of climatology, folks. Normals start to drop today, in fact. We start to lose a degree every 4 or 5 days or so. It really doesn't accelerate down until downward until we get into the month of September, and we got a ways to go yet, being that it's only August the 7th. Flash flood. Thank you, Timothy. Yes. Dio Nankumar, heavy rain in Queens. Delvin, cloudy in Boston. Storms are well north and west of you now, so you got a ways to wait. Wayne S. Storms making it into central Nassau. You know what happens all the time. You know, there's that boilerplate over Long Island that continues. You know, there's that one cell in Long Island Sound. You're not going to get that. So if the area that's moving through northeastern New Jersey, if it holds together, but you know what? After 7 or 8 o'clock, you cut the daytime heating down, and you're done. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, folks, because I'm thinking that something We have breaking weather news.
Well, I just stepped out. Hi, folks.
Come in a shot.
I just...
Because I heard the thunder.
Yeah, oh.
Joe Rayo here, everybody.
I just stepped outside, and it's coming down to beat the band here in Rybrook, and lots of lightning. Oh. Loud thunder is really...
Well, I was hearing that in here.
I mean, you could hear it from in here. It's pretty darn good. Whatever,
well, I'm going to just say goodbye now.
Well, bye.
Wait, but come back for 1 second. 9 o'clock tonight could be as early as 8:45, could be as late as 9:15. The Joe and Joe Weather Show on Facebook, either at Joe Rayo Weather or meteorologistjoecioffi.com. Okay? I'm sorry, meteorologist Joe Cioffi on my Facebook page. The website is the .com.
But you know, we used to
long day.
What drew us into this science is stuff that's happening out there right now, and here we are.
And here we are doing this.
In here doing this.
All right, well,
whatever.
You go out with your key and your kite.
Okay.
And rediscover electricity.
All right.
All right. We'll see you later. All right, folks. Just real quick, just to try and remember, you got the Joe and Joe Show coming up tonight. That's on Facebook. So we'll hope to see you there. If it's not on Facebook, as always, I upload it a little later on, so you can watch it here on the YouTube channel. Also, just a reminder that we're a participant in the Amazon Services LLC program, and also the affiliate program for Ebates. Both are designed to provide a means for my YouTube channel to earn some fees from Amazon and from Ebates. You use the links, you save money, you get your stuff, and Amazon and Ebates throw me back a little bit of coin so I can get some coffee and maybe a cigar or two. So I appreciate it. Those of you who have used it in the past, thank you very much. And we will see you tomorrow right here on my YouTube channel.